Hey YouTubers, it's just a quick little construction update on the railroad room progress. Just wanted to show you how my method for going ahead and putting casing around door openings. I always start at the top and make sure that that is level, because once you do that, and I don't know if you can see that, but that's right on, and you want to leave a reveal, which is kind of this little spot right there of the door jamb. That's probably, I don't know, 3/16 of an inch maybe. So that just gives that trim a little bit more definition. But what I do is I measure my width on the inside of the cut here. I just determine where I want this to end up, and I start measuring here, measure to the other side, and this one for me was 29 inches, so that's my inside measurement. And I just base my 45s from that point outward. And then once I attach this, it will be level. And then I measure from the very top corner here, right up here, to the floor. And that gives me my long point on my miter. So as long as I put that side of the casing towards the fence, I can be assured of a pretty accurate cut. So these have been right at 84 inches tall. So that's what I'm going to do now, is just measure that and install that. And I'll be back shortly. So I'm at the saw now, and I have my 84 inches marked on the on the outside of the casing. So this will be the part that this is my longest cut. It's away from the door opening. And so what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and flip this and put it up against the fence and go ahead and make my cut. Alright, so you can see I've got that edge against the fence, and my mark is right there. And if I had an extra hand or something to hold the camera with, I'd go ahead and show you this cut. But basically it's just the miter is going to start there and come down in towards the center. Alright, so there's the finished casing installed. Basically what you do once you get the top piece in is you go ahead and measure the distance, as I said, from the outside corner the whole way to the floor. And you saw me make those measurements and cut, and then you just go ahead and match the miters up in the corner and clamp it to the door jamb and nail it. Fairly simple. So that is all of the trim around the door openings. So I've got all that in. What I'm going to start on next tonight is this shelf back in the corner here, this little alcove. So I'm going to get my measurements up for that. I'm going to have to make some shelf supports, tie those into the studs. So I'm going to work on that next. So stay tuned. Good evening, everyone. This is another installment of my HO scale model railroad, and I just wanted to show you kind of, I hope, what is the last piece of work I have to do over here in the media room side. I put a piece of trim across the top of my backsplash there to kind of tie it in. So it finishes it off, makes it look a little bit neater. It looked a little bit too unfinished with just that rough edge sitting up there. So I got a piece of small casing, 1-inch casing, and just cut that to fit. Done the same thing on the other side over there. So this is done, finally. I've also got all of the trim installed everywhere. I've got it all painted. Got my door back up. I'm back out in the kitchenette area here now. This is the entrance to the train room. So the door's on, it's painted. All the trim is on and it's painted. What you saw at the beginning of this video was taken probably a week or so ago when I was doing this casing around the doors, and I thought I would go ahead and just include that for just an FYI, how to do some door casing. What I'm working on tonight, as I said, I got that trim piece around the backsplash done, is this is out in the kitchenette area. And I know I said this was sometime down the road, but apparently sometime down the road has arrived. What I've done in the last week or so is back here in this little alcove, I don't know if you can see down there, I've got telephone, cable, and power I had to run that from back on this wall here into my little shelf area there. I put a couple of shelves in here. Obviously I'm going to paint those supports so you can't see them, but this is housing my router and my wireless access point for my home network. I also have a phone up there. Down below we're going to have a trash can. It's a kitchen, you got to have a trash can. And so what I'm working on over here tonight is configuring these cabinets. I did not buy base cabinets, mainly because the cabinets that I purchased for the media room and also for the kitchenette here were on closeout, and I got what I got. So what I'm going to do is design what looks like a base cabinet from an upper cabinet. And how I'm going to do that is I've taken the backs off of this cabinet here. There's no point in showing you that. I've taken the back off of this cabinet here so that I can get the plumbing for this sink down and out through the left side and into that cavity. My water heater is directly below this area, so I'm going to be running plumbing, hot and cold water supply from the garage up into that space and then in through this little wall here and then up under my sink. Likewise, I have to run a drain. I'm going to be running one out into the attic space and over and tie into a drain that I've got in the front of the house. The reason that sometime down the road has occurred now is that I was thinking about running all this stuff through the attic, and if I wait much longer it's just going to be unbearable in there temperature wise. So I decided I was just going to go ahead and finish this, get it done, get it out of the way. What I've done tonight, and I don't know if you can see that vertical line on the wall, I'm setting these cabinets out 18 inches, the two on the end. The one in the center is going to come out probably about 24, I think, from the wall. And what I'm going to do in this cabinet, it's going to house a refrigerator and a microwave, which are now in the train room. So obviously I'm going to have to take the back off of this, and I'll have to extend the shelf out the back deep enough. I think I need 20 inches or so to set that refrigerator on. Then once I have all these cabinets in place, so it'll be kind of a 18 inches, 24 inches, 18 inches, and so there'll be a bit of a jog in here, and then I'll just cut plywood to fit that shape and then top that with cement backer board, and then I'm going to lay that same tile that I used on the backsplash as countertop and backsplash here. There is one cabinet which is sitting right here on its edge. It's a 12 inch by 36 inch cabinet that I'm going to mount centered over this cabinet here, just up, to have some upper cabinet storage and give me a place to hang a light, because the lighting in here is pretty bad. So my choices were to fish wires up into the ceiling here and run a light, or just to run some under cabinet lighting. And to do that I obviously needed a cabinet to run the under cabinet lighting under. So that's what I'm doing. I think what I'm going to try and do this week is obviously get these things tied in here. I need to cut some bracing to tie them into the wall, but still let them sit out 18 inches and 24. And then obviously once I get that first one set in the corner, I've got a plumb line there. I'll level it, and then I'll tie this one to it, level, same distance from the wall, 24, and then attach this third cabinet to it. So kind of make one big unit out of this as they come across from right to left. Train room wise, let's go in here for a minute. You can see I've still got stuff in here, but anyhow, all the framing's done around the door. So what I've decided to do regarding the layout, I'm still going to do a walk-in. I've gotten several plans off of Model Railroader's track plan database of track plans under 200 square feet, and several of them are walk-ins or duck-unders or around the walls, so forth. So I've gotten some ideas as far as how to lay out the track. So, you know, I hope to be able to start planning this soon. It seems like every time I turn around, I got another project here that doesn't involve trains. But so at least as far as how the tables are going to work, I had originally planned to attach them to the studs, you know, and kind of hang them off the walls with a 45 brace from the front down to the back. But I've decided to build the tables and have them just sit on the floor without being tied into the wall at all. I suppose that's because I I don't want to drill holes in my brand new drywall, but no, seriously, I think I'm just going to have them sit on the floor. I'll put leveling devices on the bottoms of the legs, you know, so I can get the tables level and square and so forth. But what that's going to enable me to do is attach a backdrop, probably masonite backdrop, to the back edge of the table and have it come up in front of the wall. You know, obviously I can paint that hardboard, that masonite, any color I want, and then you know, work with it as my backdrop instead of actually painting directly on the wall. So for that reason, who knows what the future may bring. I don't plan on moving, but if I ever have to, the layout will come out of the room just by disconnecting the tables from each other and carrying them out. I've made contact with another YouTube guy who's just a great source of information and reference for me. His channel is TNShortLineFan. So if you haven't visited his channel yet, please do so. He's got a great layout. It's in progress. It's a lot further along than mine is. Mine is zero far along, but his is up and running, and he's got some great industrial scenes on that layout, and it's not involved, you know, it's a kind of a walk-in with a peninsula, a lot bigger than mine. I'm kind of jealous because I built a room for my layout, he built a building for his layout. So go ahead and check out his site if you haven't already done so, and subscribe. He's a great guy, and I'm actually going to go probably within the next week or two over to his place and visit his layout and take some pictures and just kind of pick his brain about how he went about designing his layout. So anyway, that's, you know, kind of the layout front. And another thing I wanted to do, I'm going to go back down in the garage and we'll take a look at my current layout and got some thoughts about that. Alright, so here we are in the garage. This is the layout. It's kind of sitting here gathering dust right now. But just some thoughts, you know, I was thinking about all the time that I had put into this, and, you know, kind of sorry to see it go, but the point I guess I'm trying to make about this layout is that it was probably the first one, well, not probably, it was the first layout that I tried to add a lot of scenery to. My layouts in the past were done when I was much younger, you know, basically 4x8s, 5x9s, you know, with just track, hardly any buildings, no scenery, you know, maybe the old styrofoam mountain, you know, that kind of thing. But you know, some of the things I've learned, probably the biggest lesson is to take your time and make sure something is right before you move on to the next project. And primarily I'm talking about track here. When I laid my foam roadbed, you know, I took some care in laying it out and drawing the center lines and everything. But when I put the foam roadbed down, I probably didn't pay as much attention as I should have to the radiuses here on the corners. And I think I ended up actually, you know, trying to install that and glue it down too quickly, as opposed to maybe just taking it a little bit at a time around the corner. Because what's happened is that the track actually tilts to the outside of the curves. It's very hard to see. It's not very much of a tilt, but it's enough that it causes the trains to not run well. So you know, take your time. Obviously, if you're planning a major layout. The second thing is, you know, the concept behind this layout when I started was to have something portable. That, you know, this one's on casters. For those of you who haven't seen the first part of my layout life here with building this one. But it was on casters, so I could move it around the garage. You know, the garage was supposed to be its permanent home. Since moving here into this house, you know, it was working fine in the garage, but you know, it's too cold in the winter, it's too hot in the summer, it gets dusty. You know, to use it, I have to wheel it out in the center of the garage and plug it in, and you know, so kind of a hassle. So all that being said, when I started this layout, it was 6 feet by 7 feet, and you can see the original size here. The original plan for this layout had a cutout in the center where the town is. So there was a trapezoidal shaped cutout here in the center that would enable you to duck under the table and get into the middle and you know, take care of derailments or whatever. And I decided, probably without thinking long enough about it, to fill that in, put a town in it. Well, you know, that was fine, but now, you know, the narrowest point when it was 6 by 7 was 3 feet, and it's kind of hard to reach, you know, 3 feet into the center to do anything, you know, especially if you're trying to do detail work in there. You know, my second thing that I did, I decided, well, once I got here, let's go ahead and add an extra foot. I can put in my silos, I can put in an intermotor yard over here. Well, now it's 7 by 7, you know, so now it's 3.5 feet from the closest point, you know, to the center, and that's a little bit hard to work on. So never again am I going to do a table size layout like this, obviously. You know, taking time with the structures. You know, this original series, Model Railroading on a Budget, was you know, being able to use stuff that you have, regular old spray paint, instead of buying an airbrush and using, you know, maybe proper paints for that. I've had good results. You know, I've learned a lot. I've learned how to paint with a paintbrush and a pair of magnifying glasses, you know, to get some of these buildings done. But there again, you know, take your time and do it right. Some of the roofs, I didn't have styrene supports, you know, when I put those on, and so some of those are sagging a bit. I'm going to have to go back and you know, do some upkeep on my buildings before I put them on the new layout. So, you know, another lesson learned there. Also, when you're scenicking a layout, you know, some of this stuff may be evident to you guys, but you know, it wasn't to me at the time I was doing it. Was work on one area at a time instead of trying to do the entire thing just to get it done. This about broke my leg there. Sorry about that. That scene in the center, the abandoned oil depot. That was the first area I did on the layout as far as scenicking, and it kind of occurred because I changed my mind on the track plan. And you know, I had a siding in there, and I thought, well, you know, let's just make this thing look like an abandoned depot. I spent a lot of time on that, and for me, you know, not being an expert in scenery, it came out pretty well. But I didn't hold to that plan when I did the rest of the scenery. You know, I decided, well, tonight I'm going to put ground cover over the entire layout, so I'd do that. And it's okay, but it's not perfect. And you know, I'm in no hurry to finish this thing, so I have the time. You know, there's an area over there by the church that has a cemetery and like a little gardener's shed and so forth, and in the yellow house. That came out pretty well. So what I'm going to try and do is extract, you know, I can cut that piece of my layout out and take it upstairs. You know, I'm going to save that and see if I can't incorporate that in the new layout. The same with the abandoned oil depot. I'm going to see if I can cut that out and take it upstairs. So, you know, I don't want to ramble on here, but, you know, I tried some techniques that I had seen on YouTube as far as painting scenery, just using kind of spray paint as background colors, and then covering that with, you know, with ground foam. You know, it came out all right in some places, other places it didn't. So lots of lesson learned, a few techniques that I learned. You know, I learned how not to apply ballast. You know, I had the entire layout ballasted, and I ended up taking it all off because it looked terrible. So, you know, all that being said, it's all, boils down to the take your time attitude. And even though you think something's a good idea, before you implement it, think about it for a while. Just make sure it's the right thing to do. Pluses and minuses, what are the pluses and minuses of a 7 by 7 square foot layout? If I'd have done that, I probably wouldn't have made it this size. But anyhow, all that being said, those are just some of the thoughts I've had. Again, the layout is going to be dismantled and cannibalized for framing to use upstairs. So a couple things I want to show you, just things that I've purchased here. This is my box of track. There's about 100 feet of Code 100 track in there. So that'll get me pretty well along to doing the entire layout without sidings, inner motor yard. So that'll pretty much do my double track main the whole way around. The box next to that has cork in it. So I've got all my roadbed, got plenty of that. Actually underneath this track is the rest of my cork. So I just got the track sitting on top here. Let's see, what else have I purchased? I don't know if there's anything I can get to right now. I think I showed you this before. This is all the rolling stock and all the locomotives are in storage right here. And one thing, I think I might have mentioned this when I was doing one of the other videos. In this drawer right here, you can see all of these pieces. These are the my intermodal cars, the compact ends and centers. And I've got, I don't know how many packages of these things. I think there were like 30 boxes of ends and centers that I picked up at a hobby shop where the guy was getting rid of them for $1 a box. So I've got, I don't know, probably 50, 60, 70 cars now. Unfortunately, I don't have that many trailers to put on there. And then I've got, obviously the regular well cars as in addition to those, that type of car. All my trailers are sitting in here. So anyway, this is storage. I'm going to take this upstairs, obviously use it. Hopefully most of the rolling stock will be out as opposed to being in these cases. So let's see if there's anything else. Oh yes, down in this box you can see all these bags of sand. Whenever we go to a store that's got a floral department in it, I always take a walk through there, see if there's anything I can use for the layout. I've got some white sand here and then some of this brown tan colored stuff. And then I've also got down on the bottom somewhere here some black. Here it is right here. And I got this at Michael's. And I don't know if you can see that, but it is about the size of coal, that you would pay lots of money for. There's another bag of it down in there. So, just places that you can find stuff for the layout, not in a hobby shop. So I'm going to use the black sand for coal. I'm going to have probably, I hope to have an aggregate facility, dirt, sand, gravel. So I'm going to make some piles, out of these. Also, I'll maybe have some loads for some other cars out of that. Box of telephone poles here. A few of these bulk tanker cars. I've got a couple of those to put together. My jack crane here, still in the box, hasn't been done. So, lots of things that I've kind of picked up along the way in preparation for building a layout. So, I don't want to get too far ahead with purchasing industrial type buildings. I'm going to see how the track plan comes to fruition, where I need to put some certain industries. I've got an idea in my mind of things that I want. Lumber yard, coal yard, the aggregate facility I mentioned, maybe add a grain elevator to the silos, maybe reconfigure those a little bit. A couple of different towns instead of just one. You know, and maybe I haven't done any signage, no decals, you know, no detailing on any of the buildings, so I've got a lot of that to do. But anyhow, sorry for rambling on. I know this is running into a long time here on this video, but just wanted to give you guys an update of where I am and some thoughts that I've had, and to thank all of my new subscribers. I was on YouTube the other night watching a video from ChessieFan 2, and those of you who have not seen his channel, you need to go take a look at that, because he does some neat stuff as well, as far as detailing and you know, scenicking materials, weathering techniques, and so forth. You owe it to yourself to jump over there and take a look and subscribe to him. He gave me a big shout out on his channel, and I must have picked up 20 subscribers from him, and I thank all of you for those subscriptions. Hopefully I'll keep your attention as I go through this construction progress. I'm just as anxious as the rest of you to get all of this construction done and get into the layout, building, and designing process. So I appreciate your staying with me for so long. Take care, and check out those other two sites on YouTube, ChessieFan 2 and TNShortLineFan. Thanks.